What's up, everybody? Good late morning or early afternoon for some of you, and we are doing another shorter resume here. We are doing a shorter one. We're dealing with a coach who's been coaching for about a decade and a half, actually, not even. We're doing one that has a strong lineage in the game of football. We're doing one that has a very well known father in the coaching annals of NFL history. It's Brian Callahan, and this is one that I don't see a lot of people talking about, but I think people should be. This is another unique opportunity to land somebody who, if they hit, you're good for a long time. You are good like the Rams are good. You are good like the 49ers are good. And this guy that we're going to be talking about today, he has done some good work over his career. And let me throw this out there. Brian Callahan, what if he comes to Seattle to be the head coach and he's able to convince his father to come with him, currently a member of the Cleveland Browns coaching staff, as either offensive coordinator or offensive line coach? Bill Callahan is considered to be probably the best offensive line coach in the NFL right now. He's done great work in Cleveland. He's done great work in Dallas. He did good work in Washington for a while there. He is considered to be one of the best offensive line coaches maybe ever. So, Brian Callahan coming with his father Bill, that is an interesting idea. And I think it makes this option all the more appealing. Now, it doesn't make it appealing all by itself, so we're going to have to dissect things a little bit here, but just keep that in mind. Some of these guys might be package deals. Mike Vrabel might come with Arthur Smith, which I like a lot. Brian Callahan might come with Bill Callahan, which I'm not going to say I love it, but I think it would be great for an offensive line that really needs help. So, Brian Callahan, he's 40 years old, very, very young, one of the youngest guys we've looked at so far. Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator for the last 5 years. That's why he's a hot prospect right now. What he's done in Cincinnati, it's been impressive. It took a while to get going, but that's what happens when you don't have players, when you don't have a quarterback. 2023 was actually one of his more impressive years. He had Joe Burrow on one leg for the first month of the season. Then he had normal Joe Burrow for a little bit. Then he had Jake Browning for the rest of the year, and he still managed to field a approximately average offense, 16th in points per game, and a positive EPA per play rank, despite dealing with Jake Browning for most of the year. And when he didn't have Jake Browning, he also had a crippled Joe Burrow. So what he did in 2023 looks average, but I think was actually quite impressive, because we know what he can do with healthy Joe Burrow. 2022, 7th in points per game, 5th in EPA, one or two plays away from the Super Bowl that year. And 2021, 7th in points per game, decent EPA score, 11th in the league, .063 per play. And they make the Super Bowl. So it was two really good years when he actually got hooked up with a real quarterback, with a quarterback who was ready to start eating. And obviously he has great talent there, but if you're going to try to criticize him for the years where he didn't have talent, say 2020 and 2019, then you have to be willing to give him credit for the years when he does have talent. Guys like Jamar Chase, guys like T. Higgins, guys like Tyler Boyd. He's never really had a great running back. Joe Mixon's okay, I guess. Nothing too exciting there, in my opinion. And he did have a lot of struggles those first 2 years taking over under Zach Taylor. They were 29th in points per game, 30th in points per game. They had one of the worst teams in the league in 2019. That was the year they got the Joe Burrow pick. Their EPA was miserable both years, 26th, 29th. But as soon as he got a quarterback in place here, actually had a real fair shake at this, the results were good. Now, we don't have a quarterback on the level of normal Joe Burrow, but we do have receivers on the level of what they haven't had in Cincinnati. We do have some offensive line talent. We need more for sure. But there is reason to believe that if you give him the tools to work with, he can produce some really nice results. So that's pretty good. Pretty good resume here. Going before what he did in Cincinnati, you've got 1 year as the quarterback coach in Oakland, where Derek Carr had a pretty decent Derek Carr year, 2018. over 4,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks, 69% completion percentage. That's good. QB rating 94, which is stock standard fare for Derek Carr. So I don't really have too much to say about that. I don't circle that within a pen and go, yeah, this is the guy that I want. But it's not a bad year either. Derek Carr was about as good as he typically is. Years before that, the 2 years, 2016, 2017 in Detroit, he was the quarterback coach. Matthew Stafford, again, had normal Matthew Stafford years under Callahan. 4,400 yards, 29 touchdowns, 10 picks, 66%, 99.3 rating. This was under, what's his name? Jim Caldwell, by the way. This was Jim Caldwell as the head coach. In 2016, pretty similar. Little bit lower QB rating, lower touchdowns, but similar level of play from Stafford. So across 2 years with Detroit, he was doing fine. And then you kind of get to his origins as a coach, which were formed in Denver. He was in Denver during the Peyton Manning era, and I'm always excited to get somebody who might have had something rub off of him from Peyton Manning and what Denver was doing during that era of football. The final year was not particularly good. That was the year Peyton Manning was really washed up. That was the year Peyton Manning had very little left. Was still a great leader. Was still somebody who came through in the fourth quarter over and over and over again. But overall, he played very poorly. 22 points per game, which was 19th. Still not terrible, but a lot of that was because they had an elite defense that was able to set up the offense really well. Negative 0.07 EPA per play, which is 25th. Really bad there. But again, his role, by the way, during this time was offensive assistant. So who knows what he was really doing, but hopefully some of the stuff rubbed off on him, right? Because before 2015, it was pretty golden. 2014, second offense in points, fifth in EPA. 2013, first offense, one of the greatest offenses of all time, 0.205 EPA per play, first. The year before that, the first year of Peyton Manning in Denver, 2012, he was the offensive quality control coach. 30 points a game, second. Third in EPA per play, 0.113. So there were some great results with him, part of the staff in Denver across these 3 seasons. And I'm not going to say it was him. I think we all know who it really was. Peyton Manning was the system. But you would hope that some stuff rubbed off on him. And it's not like he's done poorly anywhere since Denver, right? He was fine in Detroit, fine in Oakland, and once he got talent in Cincinnati, he's been more than fine. He was also the offensive quality control coach for 1 year before Peyton got there. This was the Tim Tebow year. So I'm not really going to hold anything against him. When Tim Tebow's your quarterback, Tim Tebow's your quarterback. 25th in points. And the year before that, he was a coaching assistant on a terrible 4-12 Denver team that was 19th in points scored. So not even that terrible, I guess. And that's it. That's the whole resume. So there isn't a lot to go on here. But what he did in Cincinnati under Zach Taylor, who, by the way, I'm not a big Zach Taylor fan. I don't think he's all that good of a coach. I'm not that impressed by him. So I think Callahan deserves a decent amount of credit for what's happened in Cincinnati. It's appealing. And he's got 5 years of coordinator experience, which is way more than most of these guys. Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, Dave Canales. This guy's got 5 years. It's kind of his turn. It's kind of his turn to get his shot here. Would not mind it being here, especially if he can bring his dad along. So I kind of like this one more than most people. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to say he's my favorite. I'm not going to say he's one of my favorites. But he's somebody that I could circle the wagons around. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. More videos coming later today. What do you think of Brian Callahan? Let me know down below.